Well, it's 6 o'clock. Let's start our kickoff. Hi, I'm Sam Handelman. I am the president and founder of the Central Oregon Wheelers. And this evening, we're going to have our kickoff meeting, our mostly normal Central Oregon Wheelers kickoff meeting. Let me first wish you all a happy Earth Day. It's appropriate that we have our event on Earth Day. And I would ask you to type any questions you have. If you go to the top of your screen, you'll see a Q&A section and you can type in questions there, and I'll get to them probably at the end, because it's the first time I'm doing a webinar on Zoom, so there's a lot of things that I'm doing at once. I feel a little bit like a puppeteer, so being able to answer questions probably will have to wait until I can concentrate on them. We have 32 slides, most of them, or many of them, pictures, so should go relatively quickly. We also have a polling section where I will ask you some questions to get an idea on who is listening and watching and what you're interested in. So without further ado, this is the on tap area. You can tell that we had just gotten our Central Oregon Wheeler jerseys, and so this was an opportunity to take a picture of them. Hopefully we'll get back to having more, I would say, but having any social events. I'm much looking forward to that. Here we go. So we'll discuss today who the Central Oregon Wheelers are, what we have and offer, how to get certain things done on the website and other places, a discussion on the members' role, and discuss potential upcoming attractions and what you want. A little touchy there, aren't we? Let's begin with the poll, and I'm going to ask you some questions here. You're going to vote, and hopefully this is all going to work. And I'll show you the results of the poll as we go through this. The first question is, are you a member? I start with the easy stuff. Give it about 30 seconds. Seems like people know how to do this. Excellent. And don't even need 30 seconds. I'll give it 15. So there you go. Most of us are members. Cancel. Now I go on to the second one, if I can remember how to do this again. There you go. And the second one is a residency question. How long have you lived in Central Oregon? I'll get better at this. And you can see that most people have lived here less than 5 years, but 5 years is the modal point. More than 5 years, I should say, is interesting. Now I want to understand the vaccination, because this will have to do with what type of rides we can lead. If people are vaccinated, we can lead larger group rides. If people aren't vaccinated, we'll probably stick to the under 8. Wow, you guys have done well. Either that or you're old. Either way, happy that you're mostly fully vaccinated. Great. Oh. Impressive. And now we're going to ask you what type of writing you're interested in. And you can answer multiple ones. You don't have to answer just one. Okay, great. So you can see it's fairly well spread out, with road riding being the base of the club. No surprises, but I am somewhat surprised on how evenly spread it is. Two more to go. Where are you interested in riding? This is going to be, again, a multiple choice question. And just to let you know, we actually did have a group of cows go to France one time with the Bayards and had a great time. So that is not just a rhetorical question, that's a very real possibility. There's just so many places around Bend. Okay, share those. So people are interested in going places. And then our last question is advocacy. We are not truly an advocacy group. Bend Bikes probably takes over that role. The concern I've always had for advocacy, as much as I think it's very interesting, is that it does take away from the club's riders. We are doing something other than just focusing on the members. So there's a give and take here. But I was wondering if you're interested in having cows represent the bicycle community, for instance, in greenways and other things that are important to cyclists. And the answer seems like it's probably going to be yes. I'll give it another 5 seconds. Okay. And 2/3, 1/3. Thank you very, very much. Those were all the questions. I think I know, and you know now, at least what this group of members are interested in, and what we would like to do. Thank you very much. Whoa, I just skipped over that way too. No, it's, let me see if I can fix that. Nope, not gonna let me fix it. Okay. Wow. Oh, there you go. That was, this is that's David Saylors. He's riding a tricycle that was at a brewery, and this was, I think, in Prineville, and again, showing off the jersey. So what are we? We're a recreational cycling club. The key word there is recreational, non-racing cycling club. We're a nonprofit. A 501c3 is a special type for social clubs. We are membership funded and run. We don't ask for money from organizations, bike clubs, or bike shops, or anything else. We have the funding to provide everything that we need so far, and basically ride at different paces, and we're happy doing that. The photo on the left, you might recall, is Discovery Park in Bend, where we had our picnic. I'm going to guess, since we have shirts in that, probably in 2019. You probably are aware of the road classification system. The only update to this is this works great as a road pacing system. Not so good when it comes to mountain biking, gravel, things of that nature. So in general, we'll continue to use this as for everything, but it's really based off the road classification. There is no equivalence in mountain biking and gravel because it has so much to do with the terrain. But a C ride has a meaning, a D ride has a meaning. Hopefully, if you've ridden with us, you understand what that is, and you can basically extrapolate that to other forms of bike riding. The other thing that we changed is now we will, at the end, include things like road, gravel, and mountain bikes. So it's very clear what type of bike is being used on this particular ride. Obviously, you can ride a mountain bike on a gravel ride, and you can sometimes ride a gravel bike on a mountain bike ride. Sometimes you can ride a road bike on a gravel ride, depending on how wide attire you can put on it. So this is just a general concept on what works. If you have any question, always ask the ride leader. They probably will tell you. So this is our road classification system. A B ride is the slower group, but still not what I would call slow. The E ride is our faster ride, and it is fast, but if you compare it to someone that races, it would be their recovery day. So it's all relative. 2019-20 in review. We adopted Tweed Road in 2020. That was our big thing in 2020. And here's a picture of that sign, or two signs that we have on Tweed Road. And we'll be having a cleanup in the next month, which is part of the process of adopting a road. You agree to clean it up. I rode it probably 3 weeks ago, and it was very clean. So I don't think there's a lot of work for us. It'll be more of a social event. We did not do a group ride after March of last year of 2020. So for basically the an entire year, we have not done a group ride. Obviously, because of COVID, I feel that was the right decision, and it will be hard to re-enter in many respects, but this is the time. It seems like most of us are vaccinated. We understand COVID much better, and I'll talk a little bit more about COVID specifically on the next slide, or next slide after that. We currently have 175 members. We peaked at 225 back in 2019. No surprises that we don't have as many members now as we did then. Back in 2019, we had 150 club rides in that year. That's quite a bit, given that our year is right around 7 months. We had 24 different ride leaders, and we'll be talking about ride leadership. And if you aren't aware, many of the local bike shops, you can find their names on our website, offer discounts, typically around 10%. And I would strongly recommend getting your bike tuned up. Now is a great time to do that. And we have bike jerseys, shorts, bibs, and sleeves. And I'll talk about that on a future slide. COVID. We have COVID guidelines. Basically, we're keeping the rides to 8 or less. We can go beyond 8 if you lead a vaccinated only ride, and that will be on the honor system if you're questioning how we'll know whether someone is vaccinated or not. I suggest bringing in masks to start of rides. So in case you need to go into a store for food, go in the bathroom, or for whatever reason you have to get closer to 6 feet to someone. And for the time being, I was just not drafting. It turns out that I think it was the Tour de Italy, that some riders did get ill, and the only connection that they have seemed to have found is that they were in a bicycle group drafting, and someone in front of them did have COVID. So being outside is great, but it is not a perfect way to avoid getting this disease. So that's our COVID guidelines, and that's what we're doing about COVID. Hopefully, as the season goes on, we'll get more and more back to how it was in 2019 before, but for the time being, we're having smaller rides. And let me suggest 8 people is a good sized group. Benefits. If you already don't know, you get to do these things. I'm not going to read them all off. I guess the concept of Central Oregon Wheelers would be something along the line of come for the rides, stay for the friends. I know that I personally have made some of my best friends on cow rides, and somewhat unexpectedly, since I had lived here for over 15 years when starting this club, I thought I had my friend group, but you do meet new people, you meet your tribe. And what you see here on the left, that is my new gravel bike as of a year ago. And that is me getting ready for my first bike packing trip as of about 2 weeks ago. And there we have our dear friend Brian on the Crater Lake ride. This is when they closed Crater Lake for 2 weekends, and we had a great time. You can tell by the smile. Membership is easy, 18 years old, register online, pay $25. If you have a friend visiting, or if you want to check out the club, you can do that. You get one club ride before you have to join. And you can do it, you can sign up online, and you can sign the waiver online too, both as a guest and as a member, and then you're done. So that's membership. And we have social events. I think that you'll see in the photos quite often what we're doing is eating. One of the great benefits of cycling is you get to eat more. So we have ad hoc events. Typically they're going to be at the food carts, and they can be in the evenings. And I would suggest any member use the submit button and say, hey, let's meet up Thursday night, Friday night at such and such a time. And typically anywhere from 8 to 18 people show up. We have a picnic event. That's a riding event where we end up and we eat. In the past, David Garcia has been kind enough to be our chef and prepare the food for us. One time we had a caterer do box lunches for us. We'll figure it out. And that happens typically in April, May, June. I don't remember now. And then every year in December, usually early December, we have a holiday potluck party. In the past, we've had it at the Unitarian Church, which is in this photo. It's a beautiful event center, and I feel very fortunate that we're able to use it, and it allows us to get 90 people together. And since it is a potluck, we just have a great time. So that's our main social events, but this can grow. This is just what we've had in the past. That's Haleakala, I believe is how you pronounce that. And that's Colin on the right, who was very happy to have completed that day. Or actually not completed the uphill, which you can see is 10,000 feet up from sea level. The club has a website. We are incorporated as a 501c7. We have insurance. I'll talk about that more. We have bylaws, which are available for viewing on the website. We have a great board of directors. We have a Facebook page. We have a Strava club. We have a Ride with GPS club. We have on the Ride with GPS club over 200 listed routes, mostly road. We have gravel, mountain bike, and it's growing every day. And we have lots of members. Let's talk a little bit about our insurance. The insurance is really two parts. One is what they call excess accident medical expense coverage. So anything up to $25,000 that your main insurance doesn't cover, this excess accident insurance does cover. Unfortunately, we've had to use it twice. Both people that had to use it gave it thumbs up. It did work. It does have a small copay, and it does kick in if you have to use at least $250 of your primary insurance. So that's how excess insurance works, and it works for members that are on a club ride. And then we also have a general liability fund. This is for a host of things, including, I'm guessing, if a member on a ride accidentally hits a pedestrian, or I can come up with other ghastly ideas, which I refuse to do. But anyway, this is a legal defense and potential settlement up to $1 million. One of the ways, and probably the key way, especially with small group rides, of finding out about a ride is by signing up for announcements. You don't see this particular page. This is on the back end, but on your profile in the website, and something I sent out in today's newsletter, you can pick any of these things that you want to have an email sent to you for. The reason it's even more important now is because rides are filling up relatively quickly. This lets you basically be the first person to find out about it. You don't have to haphazardly go to our website and say, oh, look, there's a new ride. And oh no, it's all filled up. This will let you know and basically allow you to sign up right there in your email. You can see that a lot of people are currently using it. We have 106 people signed up for the sea rides. We have people signed up for everything from Zwift to bike packing to gravel rides, to whether they're interested in the board meetings. And if they are, I will send them an email telling them when we have board meetings again outside of Zoom. And this is probably a good time to remind you, at the top, there is a Q&A. You can type in a question if you have any questions on anything that you're seeing that I'm not explaining well. This is a picture of us in Europe. This is us in Reading. This is us in Prineville. And this is us skiing. You probably know how to join, but just quickly, you can join on the website, pay using almost any credit card, including American Express, I think, and Diners, both. Or you can mail a check as another way. And basically, you'll send it to my house, and I get to use all that newfangled phone deposit capability, which I love. So I no longer have to even go to On Point, where our bank account is. This is the bite, I believe, in Tumalo. Tell by their clam boxes. So you can interact with Ride with GPS. I use that quite a bit. Strava, Zwift, Facebook, and our website. On our website, we do have forums. So on the front page, you can use the forum to sell a bike, to ask a question, to do, basically, you're a member. You basically own and run the club as much as anyone. So the website is a great way to interact also. And then obviously the best way to interact, which is on a ride. Registering, if you haven't done it, is easy. Go to the website, click the calendar, pick a ride, click register, you registered. It's really very simple. If the ride is full, you'll be put on a wait list. If someone cancels their registration because they can no longer make it, it will pick the next person that is waitlisted to be on the ride, and will then email that person that they've moved from the wait list to the registered list. So it's all automated. Safety is important. Know the cycling laws in Oregon. They're on the website. Know etiquette. That's also on the website. If you don't want to be in the club, this is probably a great way to get out of it quickly, is be an unsafe rider. We've been very, very, very fortunate. Everyone, for the most part, has adhered to these rules. If a ride leader tells me of an issue, I will get back to that person and ask them to fix whatever the problem is. And what we found in the past, that people like that typically get annoyed with me telling them to fix something, and they quit on their own. So it usually works, and it usually works very quickly and efficiently. On the rides, obviously wear a helmet, carry ID. Carrying ID is fairly important. If you hurt yourself, usually we know who the rider is. We don't always. One of the things I do is I use a bracelet that has my name and phone number and my emergency contacts phone number on it. And I think they're $15. I think they're called Ride ID. Bring a phone, bring a pump, bring water, all these normal things. Learn how to use a pump, learn how to fix your own tire, arrive 10 minutes early. So that's, I think you would agree, is just common sense. This is Smith Rock at the very end there, beautiful. And it was a bikepacking trip done last year. You can tell because they have water bottles on their forks. And this is a bike ride around the Steens. I think it was a 4-day event. One of the important aspects of the club is being a ride leader. Unfortunately, this is not a backroads type club. You have not paid $25 to have someone lead you on a ride. You paid $25 to lead and be led on a ride. It's actually fun. It's easy. Most ride leaders, we struggle with the very first one in the sense that there's a lot of unknowns, but after they lead their first ones, what we find is they lead multiple ones. So it's just getting over that initial hurdle of leading the first ride. And because of the need for smaller groups, we need more ride leaders also. And then most of this I've already mentioned. You can just submit an event. That event can be a social event, it can be a ride, whatever. The submit button's on the website, right at the front of the navigation. Ride leading is probably whether this club will succeed or not. Without it, the club has no rides, and there's no reason for it. With a bunch of people leading rides, we have a very successful club. A little bit of a sad note here. This is the Clarquist with my wife, Barbara. This is Honey Run Bridge on the Wildflower ride in Chico. This got burnt down in the fire 2 years ago. So it's a valuable picture of what once was. And who knows, maybe they rebuilt it. If you do choose to be a ride leader, I suggest submitting a ride 2 weeks before the ride, give people an opportunity to join. Feel free to invite your friends, even if invite them as guests. It's always hard at the beginning because people don't know you as a ride leader. So having some people that have already registered on your ride because you're your friends is a great way to start it off. Make the ride description appealing. This is marketing 101, and those would be my key suggestions for being a ride leader. You can actually lead a ride from the rear, you can lead a ride from the front. It doesn't matter. Your speed doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter that you're the fastest. It doesn't matter that you're the most knowledgeable about the route. And if you struggle with directions, lead a ride like up Skyliner as your first ride, which has no turns. So you don't have to worry about which way to go. This is a recent ride that we did. It's called Twin Bridges Gravel. It's a lot like the famous Twin Bridges ride that's so popular, but it takes on a gravel component. And this is actually Aubrey Butte Trail. And it just takes you in places that one typically doesn't go, and it makes the Twin Bridges ride anew. We have lots of possibilities, more possibilities than I have slides, but some of the ones are, if you haven't done the Ofterheide ride, beautiful. There's a gravel possibility, there's a road possibility. We can overnight at the Westford Lodge. Escadeta, I can never pronounce that the first time. Estacada has both a gravel or road. You can begin at Frog Lake, which is something you might have seen on your way to Portland on 26. You can start in the town and camp near the town. There's the Blue Mountain Scenic Byway. It's one of the Oregon Scenic Highways. That one begins in Hebner. It would be overnight. It would be 108 miles total. Another Oregon Scenic ride is Sheer Falls and Bake Oven Climb. They're both in Maupin. Given the names, it's not a good midsummer ride because it's hot there and it's low elevation. So now would be a great time to lead a ride there or to do that again in fall. So any of these rides, if you're interested in them, contact me. I will give you the Ride with GPS route that I had looked at. You can decide whether it's something you'd be interested in leading. We can do a ride, either gravel or road in McMinnville. That includes wine tours or just wine events. So this is just a kind of a short list of potential rides that are within a couple hours of our home of Bend. Oh, I'm glad this is here. Um, this is McKinsey Pass. And as of last week, McKinsey Pass was opened at least to Windy Point. And what they do is they move the endpoint forward as the machines kind of push through. This is very close to the top, as you might know. So if you're interested in doing McKinsey Pass without cars, and this might be the time to do it. I think what I saw is they're putting up a lot more signs saying that it's dangerous, and that's appropriate. There's going to be gravel, there's going to be water, and at times there'll probably even be those machines. So you do have to be careful, but it's probably one of the most fun rides to do in Central Oregon. As a member, lead rides, ride, come to board meetings, invite your bike friends, but basically join us. I just took this shot of upcoming events a couple days ago. We did Poke the Bear, had a great time. There were 6 of us. This was a gravel ride, just lots of fun. Kickoff was tonight. There's a mountain bike ride called Friday at Phil's that's coming up. And the Wallowa Tour, which is this big trip out by Baker City, was put up on Tuesday by Ben, and by Wednesday it was full, and there's a waiting list. So that's just surprised me, because that's obviously a very hard ride, and that's why he put drop on it. So let me see if there's any questions I can answer. Oh, thank you, Pauline. Pauline thanked me for my time and effort making this club a success. Thank you. I'm glad you think it's a success. Yes, I will be posting these slides on the website. So actually, what I'll do is I'll post them you'll see them on the homepage. You can just go through them. Our rides no drop, that is at the discretion of the ride leader. And that's always a difficult one, because if someone does ride a ride that they probably don't have the ability to be on, then that can be problematic. But I've never seen anyone get dropped or lost. On the other hand, do I think that people should put the routes on their Garmin or their Wahoo device? So if they decide that they don't want to do this anymore, they can get back easily? Absolutely. You should have the ability to get back. But in general, it's a social club. We're pretty friendly. I don't see this as being a macho, I can go faster than you. And that's why we do have paces. So thanks for asking the question, are rides no drop? It was asked on the previous slide, what did the term drop signify? What Ben was trying to get across there is that this was a hard ride, multi-day bikepacking trip, and that people should be self-sufficient. What he also said was they weren't going to drop anyone. It was just more of a concept of making sure that people understood on a bikepacking trip what they were getting themselves into, because no one can drive out and bring you back on most parts of that ride. But they will wait for everyone to get together. And that was a bikepacking trip. So that's a kind of a special case situation. Hope that answered your question. I'm interested in leading a ride. Is there a minimum distance for rides? Absolutely not. Let me go further on leading a ride. If you want to lead a ride for women only, assuming you're a woman, that is fine. If you want to lead a ride with just 3 people and 2 of them are your friends, and you basically are doing this just so you can get the insurance, that is fine. This is your club. I don't see very many limits, and you can offer a ride virtually anywhere, doing anything that is of enjoyment to you. we had one ride leader that led a ride that basically was to get breakfast in the morning out by the airport. And she would actually clip the coupons out of the paper so that we could get a discount on our breakfast. So there's really, don't view this as this is a recreational club, not a race club, and view it as a recreational event and a way to have a good time and a way to meet people and a way to enjoy yourself on a ride and to show people something that you might find really interesting. So no minimum distance for rides. Do we get a reminder if we need to pay our dues? How do we know if we owe dues? Well, that's the great thing about having a computer system. Yes, it tells you. It tells you multiple times. It tells you when you have like a couple weeks to go before your dues are due. It tells you a week, I think, before, and tells you that when the day that your dues are due, and then it'll tell you 2 weeks afterward that you're no longer a member. So it is pretty fussy about getting you to pay your dues. I don't have to do anything. If it doesn't ask you, let me know there's something wrong. I probably clicked an off button where I shouldn't have, but that's basically how Wild Apricot, that's the name of our website and the system that we use. It sends out literally thousands and thousands of automated emails reminding you that the ride that you registered on is coming up, reminding you that your dues are due, reminding you of lots of things. So yes, you will know when your dues are due. Do rides have one particular start location? No, they do not. I would suggest that a ride start at a place where there's restrooms, given that most of us don't have young bladders anymore. And I would suggest it be a place, if it's out of town especially, that has parking that we can use, i.e. a park or something like that, so we don't get in trouble for parking there for 3 hours. But no, there is not one particular start location. We do use a Discovery Park, probably the most of any single location, partially because that is close to Twin Bridges, partially because that does have restrooms and good parking, partially because it is just far enough out of town where traffic isn't as big a problem, and partially because that's very close to my house. So no, there is not one particular start location. If groups are limited and fill up quickly, is there a way to ask for a second ride leader to step up and break it into 2 separate groups for the route? Excellent question. And yes, we have talked about that. It hasn't come up yet, but the answer is yes. If you end up with a backlog of people and you can contact any of the riders that are on that on your ride, we can break that into 2. In fact, if you're a mountain bike rider, one of the things you recognize is that even 8 people is a large group. Probably 4 or 5 is better, and not just for us, but for the other people on the trail system. So there specifically, if 8 people show up, we might actually split that one into 2 groups too, and make it more fun for everyone. How do we buy club clothing? If you go to the website, in bold pictures there, right in the middle, it says Peak 1 is where you go to buy clothing. And if you go to the top, it'll say merch for merchandise, and that will take you to the Peak 1 website. Not many people have ordered yet, so we're going to have to make a decision soon whether we're going to extend the time frame from April to May 30th. And if we do that, then we don't get our stuff till July because they won't start it, or whether we just wait till next year and say we're sorry to the people that have already ordered, which have only been a few. So what happens in the next week will decide whether we are going to be able to get clothing from Peak 1. A little statement about the clothing: it's really good clothing. The jersey is actually high quality for $60. My bibs are probably the single best bibs that I own, and I think they were $60 too, or somewhere around there. And I owned bibs that cost much more than that, that weren't as good a quality. This year we got sleeves. We have a bright yellow jacket that has our logo on it. So there's different things. And I recognize that the club has a slow start this year compared to prior years because of COVID and other reasons. So this might be just a bad year to ask people to buy clothing, but if you do, we will. So that's how you buy clothing. Go to the website. You'll see a link to it, to the Peak One site. I signed up for a number of groups when I moved here and can't remember if I paid membership fee to COWS. How do I find out? On the About Us part of the website, which is the far right side of the navigation, at the bottom, you'll see membership. And you can look up your name. If your name isn't there, you're probably not a member. If you don't see the membership directory, it's because you're not a member. If you can't sign on to the website, if you don't have a password or it doesn't recognize you, then you're probably not a member. Worst case, you can always email me, which is the email you get for your newsletter. You can respond to the newsletter and ask me if you're a member, and I will write back to you and let you know. But basically, if you can't log on to the website, you're probably not a member. On average, how many road rides occur on any given week? Let me speak to prior years. This year, I think is going to be interesting. In past years, we've had 2 to 3 road rides on any given week in the middle of the season. This year, there's obviously different things happening. There's going to be more gravel rides, more mountain bike rides, just because that's what people started doing more of during the pandemic. And so I think that I'm one of them, that I'm more likely to do a gravel ride, and I had never done a gravel ride before the pandemic. So things change. But the answer to your question is in 2019, 2 to 3. I'm not retired yet. Do you have rides on weekends? It depends on who's leading rides and when they want to lead them. So, you know, I don't lead all the rides. No one does. And so it just depends. In the past, we have had weekend rides. If I look back at historically, people that don't have to go out on the weekends typically don't want to go out on the weekends. It's funny. Now that I'm retired, I would much rather do a weekday ride than a weekend ride for obvious reasons. But my best answer to that is start leading a ride on weekends. Call it like Steve's Saturday ride, and you will build up a cadre of people. And after a while, Steve's Saturday ride will probably be fine without Steve. It'll happen on their own. They have a life of their own. Hi, Brad. For vaccinated only rides, any conditions apply that were on your list? I don't, we're in uncharted territory here. We have yet to have a vaccinated only ride. My kind of vision, and let me know whether you agree with this, but my vision is that if you call a vaccinated ride, you can have a group size larger than 8, and you can plan on eating afterward, which you probably can do with a non-vaccinated ride too, and people can decide, but you can definitely you can meet it on tap or something like that afterward, and sit at a bench and be closer together than 6 feet. But I wish, uncharted territory, and not being a medical professional, I just think there's less risk involved if everyone's vaccinated. So any conditions apply that were on your list? We can discuss that. I don't know. This is the real answer. How do club finances look? Great. The pandemic, people still joined even during the pandemic, and our costs were way down because we didn't have any events. So we started the pandemic with about $6,000, and we ended we have about $6,000 in our account still. So $6,000 is a goodly amount. It's a good amount to have. The holiday party is expensive, and we need to put some money down for that. But $6,000 will get us through 2 years of expenses. Our website costs us about $750 a year now. Insurance costs us about $500 a year. So you can see $6,000 goes a long way to paying for many of the costs of the club and still having our social events. Who can coach me if I want to lead a ride but never have? I'll be happy to. David Garcia is our ride coordinator. In fact, any of the board members, I know Brian would be happy to do that. Just reach out and we will help you. And I think you'll find it a very rewarding experience to lead a ride. Just once you submit a ride, it'll give you an opportunity to put a comment in like, I'm a newbie, I need help, and we're there for you. Thank you for considering leading a ride. If we buy merchandise online and size doesn't work, can we exchange? I will say probably not, unfortunately. You can exchange with someone else that might have bought the wrong size, but I think one of the problems about buying online is that. What I would suggest is, since I don't really know the answer to that, is go to Peak One and you can email them directly and ask them that question. We're not actually taking any cut or anything else on the clothing. So this is a transaction between you and Peak One. So however Peak One responds to that will be the way. What I would tell you about the clothing is that it is what they call club fit as opposed to fitness fit. So it's a little baggier than clothes that you might buy. If you're medium in your clothes, I'd say medium will probably fit. Large. It's fairly accurate, is what we found. It fit me well. I'm a medium, and I bought medium pants and a medium jersey, and it was a great fit. But I don't know about exchanging. Will Terry host progressive rides this year? I hope so. Terry has a knee issue. It's slowing him down. He's not happy about it. I'm sure his friends aren't happy about it. But if you would like to begin the progressive rides until Terry is feeling his oats again, let's talk about that. I can send you what Terry had done in the past, and we can just repeat that. The only thing we need is a ride leader. So that's Terry's status and the progressive ride status. Hello, Michelle. So one of the suggestions that Michelle has for us, and Michelle knows a lot of good stuff, is that if you're riding in an area that doesn't have cell service, he suggests using a Garmin InReach, InReach, and that's a satellite service. And it's one of those things that if you're out in the middle of the way back and your spouse or significant other is worried about your well-being, you can let them know that everything is okay. Since we're talking about gear and safety gear in general, one of the things that I really liked that I bought last year was the Garmin radar system. I have a Garmin device that sits in front, and Wahoo works just as well for this. And you can put this radar unit, which looks like a bright light, in your back. And what it does is it lets you know that there's a car behind you. It kind of flashes and shows you that there might be 2 or 3 cars in a row behind you. It allows you to pull over. It also makes sure that you don't pull back over into the lane too quickly, which is a problem. If 2 cars are back to back, you assume that after the first car has passed you, that everything is fine, and there's another car behind that. That's maybe where the danger comes. I found this thing to be incredibly useful. It's called a Garmin radar light, especially for gravel rides, because gravel rides can be very noisy. and very few cars, and you have a tendency to ride in the middle of the lane. And that's exactly what happened to me. I once had a truck come by, very friendly guy, wave at me. He was 5 feet away from me before I knew he was even there. And I realized that I hadn't, because of the noise of me on the gravel, I had no clue that he was behind me, and I was basically right in the middle of the road. So in order to alleviate that, I did buy one of these radars. Liked it so much, I bought Barb one of these radars, and I'm very happy that I did that. And then, yes, good. We potentially picked up a ride leader today, so good stuff. Let me look at the chat. Anything there? You can see routes, pretty much any of the routes that we've done in past years is available on Ride with GPS on the Ride with GPS Co-Wheelers Club site. And a lot of you have joined up for that. That was the 200 rides I was talking about. It's basically those, what I've done is as best as I can, I've taken all the rides that we've done and put them on this library, this route library that exists on Ride with GPS. So if you're looking for a route, that's probably the best way to get at it. And you can sort it by name, by distance, by elevation. So there's lots of different ways to find the route that you're looking for. It'll also give you a visual picture, a little thumbnail picture of the route itself on the right side. And if you still want to get help with a route that you did in prior years, just you can email me, tell me about when it was and how many miles, and I can go back and look at the event log at that time and see if I can find it. Yep, the meetup locations are different based on each ride. You can start them basically anywhere you'd like. My only recommendation is just a recommendation is parking in bathrooms. And that's even not even critical. There's always bushes and dirt. How many times a week are there rides? There are rides as often as ride leaders lead them. Are rides mostly on weekends? I'd say they're mostly on weekdays, but again, that's a function of who's leading them. There's no one telling anyone when they should lead a ride. Let me see. I think that's all the questions. Unless you have any additional questions, I'm going to say that we've had a successful kickoff, mostly normal. In the past, we've had this in a pub. In the future, I want to have this in a pub. As much as I enjoyed the webinar, I do feel somewhat isolated doing it a webinar as opposed to doing a pub event, but this is the second best way. Thank you all for coming this evening. And I look forward to seeing you on a ride. I look forward to seeing you as a ride leader. I look forward to having you connect with me in any way you feel is appropriate. If there's nothing else, I consider this meeting adjourned. Thanks.